Welcome back, everyone. Now, a second series of the day is ready to kick off as the draft has begun and is ready for us. iG.V taking on Sun Gaming here for the ESL One Genting 2018 qualifiers for China. 1 week or so after the rest of Europe, Southeast Asia, NA, South America have all got their guys qualified. We are now looking for our Chinese team to get themselves through to Malaysia. And as we can see, an interesting back and forth already in the draft, drag and drop. Clockwork first pick by iG.V. Immediate SF pick to stop the soul snatching shenanigans from the cogs. And then we see the ET and AA follow up. A little bit interesting, SF ET opener, but adapting to the position they were in.
If iG.V didn't pick the Clockwork, I don't think Sun Gaming would have went for the Shadow Fiend, because it's very awkward first pick. It's also one of the reasons why we see different heroes picked up in the first phase and then the Clockwork Shadow Fiend in that second phase was maybe a little bit trickier to do this kind of counter pick thing, especially if you're already committed to some particular playstyle instead. But for now, actually curious to see Tiny going through that far, but he's finally been banned out in the second phase as well. But yeah, with the Clockwork Ancient Apparition, iG Vitality, they already have a very solid start. Clockwork, of course, he can be the 4 position, he can also be an offlaner, so you have that flexibility. Ancient Apparition, also very solid hero as that secondary support. And if you then combo that up with something else, even just the Clockwork, if you catch somebody inside the cogs, so you can guarantee that the Cold Feet will proc, and then you also have that extra bit of damage from the AA Chilling Touch, which can lead to these early kills that you're often looking for with these kind of heroes. But Sun Gaming getting themselves the Batrider, so some extra initiation of their own that they've been lacking so far, unless you really want to count the Elder Titan.
Yeah, the Clock AA support duo that is very strong at just... once they hit level 6, they go around the map looking for kills, and they can do that on core heroes. You can imagine a hook shot into Ice Blast with a cogs onto an SF. If he doesn't have a Yules or a Force Staff or a Hurricane Pike to get out of danger, he can easily die to that duo of support heroes of iG.V. As Legion comes out, good against the Bat in the kind of mid to late game, not so good early on, but it depends on what kind of lanes they're up against. But with that, press the attack, taking off the lasso, the sticky napalm stacks, definitely offers you a nice little bit of leeway in team fights and that saving power up against the Batrider. Bat, though, able to fly over the cogs, not going to be under too much pressure from Clockwork early on, which means that Clockwork is going to have to think about which lane or lanes he heads to. Off lane, probably unlikely to be the spot he wants to find himself in. So it might be that iG.V want to put the Legion in a 1v1 against Bat and have that lane where Bat farms well, but Legion isn't under kill power, and the Clock, the Clock AA and Lifestealer go like an aggro lane and try and play up against the ET Disruptor, who are not good heroes in a defensive tri-lane, and could suffer quite heavily to the hands of the iG.V trio.
They could certainly try and exploit that, but on the other hand, you do pick the Lifestealers, some of these classic counter picks, right? You already had the Legion as a counterplay to the Lasso, and Lifestealer is a hero that can stand in lane pretty much alone against the Batrider. It doesn't really get killed because it can always rage off these napalm stacks. So maybe you can just leave the Lifestealer in as 1v1 and use the Legion Commander as this tri-lane core. But yeah, as I said, it would make a lot of sense to contest this, because no matter what kind of hero Sun Gaming pick up now, they're gonna be under a lot of pressure, unless it's maybe something like a Vengeful Spirit that can just stay in front lines, get CS, but also threaten with that stun into perhaps a Stomp or whatever else they can throw out. But the question is that going to be enough against a tanky Clockwork and the threat that we were talking about just a moment ago with Cogs catching somebody in, or Clockwork just running people down with a battery assault? That alone can be devastating to a hero like Disruptor, especially if he, especially at level 1, if he's just skilled the Thunder Strike, or if he already used the spells. So iG.V, all guns facing forward already in the laning stage, and Sun Gaming, well, I mean, you have the Batrider, and we were talking about that. He should have a decent time regardless, because he can always fall back to jungles as well. But Shadow Fiend, he might actually need that himself, depending on what kind of hero iG Vitality you want to pick up for a middle lane now. Yeah,
jungle might get a bit crowded. This safe lane from Sun kind of has to... I don't know if salvage is the right word. I like what they have so far, but it definitely has to round out their draft incredibly well from that one position. iG.V do have to pick first for their mid, but they know what the opponent is. They know what they have to deal with, you know, lockdown-wise, because they see the Disruptor, ET, Batrider as the 2 supports and offlaner, so it doesn't feel like that important a decision from iG.V, as they've set themselves up nicely throughout the draft, and their final hero will be the Tinker. There is some catch here on the side of Sun Gaming with Bat and Disruptor, you know, Blink Lasso and Glimpse, but you're not going to have, you know, a Storm Spirit or a Nyx Assassin or something like that from the one role of Sun. It doesn't feel like. Maybe they feel forced to go into some kind of catch, but you look at the bans and there really isn't that much left. The Puck is gone, the Storm of course banned out by themselves, and they'll go with the Razor, which will try and give them this lane dominance, try and counteract the Lifestealer and the Legion more than the Tinker, and focus on that early to mid game. Hopefully shut down the Tinker with some early rotations and lane pressure from ET Disruptor, but iG.V definitely look like they have the better skirmishing power, the better kind of scaling through to that mid to late game with the help of Tinker, of course. But Sun do have elements of that as well. The trouble I foresee is if Shadow Fiend falls behind, like you were mentioning, the Bat and SF both need that jungle. If it gets too crowded in there, if they're not able to find early pickoffs and fights with a fast blink or, you know, aggression into tier 1s, then Sun Gaming, if they fall behind early, they could find themselves stuck in that rut throughout the game.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, look at Sun's lineup. It feels a little bit thin, right? Because you were mentioning they have these kind of tools up against what iG Vitality has, especially with the Razor just draining damage from either the Legion Commander or the Lifestealer. You also have the Disruptor and the Batrider just to catch out the Tinker. But the thing is, there's not a lot of flexibility. Like, one of these puzzle pieces falls out or is too far away or dead or anything, and the whole strategy falls apart, and then you have iG Vitality's heroes with the ability to do whatever they want. Like Legion Commander running you down, just setting up with the help of the Lifestealer to get these kills. Clockwork also just creating chaos and dividing the fights up, and then the Tinker just bouncing around on the edges time and time again, just throwing at rockets and lasers and whatever Tinkers want to do, if they get to the point where he's farmed enough. And I don't know, there's no classic ganking heroes in the early parts of the game that can really threaten the Tinker, so what can they really do to threaten him is my big question here.
Get early items on the Batrider. It really is key that Bat has a good early game and gets, you know, fast Tranquil Soul Ring Blink or Brown Boots Drums Blink, whatever he decides to go for, but he definitely has to have an impact early on. And you've also got to get levels on your Disruptor, which can be difficult in a game like this. That level 6 on Disruptor with a Static Storm, super important against Lifestealer, Tinker, and Legion to catch them and kill them. But we'll see how things progress, as Legion will be heading towards the off lane here, should be having a decent time. Again, up against Razor and Disruptor, can purge off the Thunderstrike with that press the attack, but can't really do too much against the static link. Razor should be able to drain a decent amount of damage. But then you look at this bottom lane. Cold Feet, Open Wounds, and potential of cogs from this Clockwork. Batrider, that Firefly cooldown is incredibly important, but also getting out of this sticky spot is important. Cold Feet will snap onto the Batrider's head. A few more clicks will do the job, but it looks like Bat has got enough distance away with that Firefly, but already expended. Doesn't drag the creep wave back. He went for the Bounty Rune contest instead of trying to get the creeps down here to meet at his tier 1. So I feel like maybe a misplay from Batrider there, but he'll be able to get back to lane and try and apply a bit of pressure early on in a little while. But the fact that Batrider's been done in there means that the AA and Clockwork can do so much elsewhere on the map. Dogfights already pressures SF mid. The AA has found the ET wandering around in his jungle. Maybe doesn't know about this Observer Ward in the pull spot, but yeah, he's picking it out. He's pretty certain that there is a ward somewhere around here, and he'll see that the camp has been blocked up in about 10 seconds or so. And up at top lane, Legion is doing what I thought Batrider should have done. Pulling the creep wave across. This will secure level 2 for the Legion pretty shortly. ET's doing the job that, you know, Legion and Bat have been doing decently. So that will get some levels for them. But again, it's the Shadow Fiend mid who is struggling and will continue to struggle for the majority of this game.
Yeah, especially not having this Cogs trick available to just start you off with a good number of souls. And then on top of that, having to deal with the Clockwork as well as a Tinker Laser. it's gonna be extremely hard. I mean, he's level 2 now, finally got that up and running, so that should help him secure a few extra CS with the raises and perhaps also help him zone out at least Clockwork here if he can get a couple of these stacks going.
ET has to be super careful. ET could quite easily die here. Laser Rockets is up. He's going to walk this one off. Clockwork doesn't get involved, but if he'd stuck around a little longer, that Tinker does output a lot of damage, and Clockwork's going to come back in and force this SF to trade hits with him a little bit. This is a little bit awkward for the Dire team, it feels like, as they've also pushed this top wave into the Tier 1. The Legion did, of course, drag this back a little while ago, so Equilibrium has been messed up just a touch, as we'll have a bit of a pause and a disconnect. I'm guessing hotkey issues, we've been having a lot of those recently. So what do we have player-wise? Give us a rundown of who's playing what.
Yeah, what's the balls we can take the time? We're just running through this list here. We've got, okay, it just disappeared. We've got Staccato and a Tinker, Flyby playing the Life Stealer, Leading Commander in the hands of Surf or something? SRF. Dogfights, of course, on the Clockwork. He's tagged up properly, and Super left on the Ancient Apparition. On the other side, we've got Ice playing the Elder Titan, Bat Rider in the hands of Waishi. I guess that's the way to pronounce it. MRRR on the Disruptor, Faded on the Shadow Fiend, and not sure the Razor is just Chinese characters, even as a competitive name.
What's he called on Liquipedia? Where are we, Sun Gaming? Oh, he's got Chinese characters on Liquipedia as well. Oh, it's Blink, dude. It's Blink.
Blink.
Of course it is. It slipped my mind.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So Blink and Ice from Wings. It's nice seeing the Wings guys all backing around. You know, we've seen Shadow, we've seen Y. They're doing a great job so far in these qualifiers. Up at top, the Legion chasing Disruptor back away from this pull through. We nearly saw the Shadow Fiend fall to the Tinker with this Laser Rockets build, 2-1-0 so far. Bat Rider has managed to stay alive bottom, 3 last hits, getting levels most importantly. But Life Stealer with a wand could potentially be left alone down here, but you take a look at the AA, in a bit of trouble, Cold Feet thrown out, but Bat Rider, 4 stacks of Napalm, now up to 5, the Cold Feet snaps, and Ancient Apparition might be able to escape from this. Bat Rider's dropping lower to the tower, and he's gonna fall! First blood goes to the AA, and that was an awful, awful dive gone wrong for Bat. Nearly gets first blood himself, but instead hands it over to the Radiant.
Feels so bad. Cold Feet procs is just at the edge, and you realize, alright, I fucked up. But there's no other choice but to keep going and still try for the last extra right click, but fortunately he didn't get in range for that, so instead feeding the first blood over. Not the kind of start you want, but I mean, we saw the threat though. It didn't take much for the Ancient Apparition to die there, much more than what it was supposed to. So Bat Rider does have that similar kind of killing potential that the Clockwork perhaps has as well, especially if he does end up hitting level 3 and they can start running down heroes like the Disruptor, even Shadow Fiend. Like, he's setting up for something in mid, now waiting for Faded to go across into the river, and there's the wraparound. Even sees the courier.
Daytime ends, the double raise. Oh, dogfights, dearie me. The triple comes through, and down he goes. Pushback of the cogs. ET, hasted. Can't follow through as the Cold Feet comes in. Rockets, only level 1. Did go back for a point in the March. Of course, you do feel the necessity to go back into the farming build as you'll get into your Soul Ring and Boots of Travel. We've seen a lot more, in fact, nuke damage builds. You know, going for max laser, going for a couple points in rockets early, and going for Boots of Travel rush, so you're able to run around the map and get kills early on, and then go back for the Soul Ring a little bit later as Tinker does miss out on the observable last hit. The range creep comes in and says, thank you very much. But top lane, here are the supports pairing up, and this is the combo that's about to happen, which we will see a lot of this game. Starts off with the cogs into Cold Feet, and then of course we'll start getting the Ice Blasts, but Dogfight in with a Battery Assault. Cold Feet's there. Not going to go for the cogs just yet, which maybe was a mistake, but the Razor doesn't have the tankiness really to withstand the damage from the Legion as well as those 2 heroes.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out in mid because the Razors did end up hitting, but Clockwork making it happen at the top, even with just the 1 point up in a better sold middle lane though. The Storm will actually connect to the Tinker. 1 raise, 2 raise, no more mana for another one. Glimpse just keeping it in place and just straight up dies to the Tinker with 2 extra heroes, dropping so low. Now the supports from iG.V making another bit of a trade out of it. 2 for 1. Tinker getting one of these kills all by himself.
Ancient Apparition on a killing spree. Nearly died very early on, nearly was first blooded, but 3-0 so far on the Ancient Apparition, as they'll get a nice little two-man shrine. Clockwork not really needing it too much. Tinker dying there is a little bit sad, but he already has Soul Ring Bottle. His farming build will start blossoming into a wonderful thing, as they should be building up some stacks for him to get the Boots of Travels fast as well. But dogfights and this Ancient Apparition just going around looking for kills non-stop.
They got this one when they were shrining up, but that's about it for now, I believe. Clockwork level 3 now, so all of a sudden you have even... it just adds so much to the damage output, more than doubles it from the Battery Assault.
And they've got some nice stacks for the Bat Rider, so... Yeah, Lifestealer was given, what, level 4, level 5? And that's when he can start 1v1ing the Bat, which meant the AA could roam. But now they've moved ET down there, but it's still these two roaming heroes finding Disrupt at top. Static Link is good onto the Legion, giving a lot of damage in onto the Razor, which allows Clockwork to fall to the hands of the Whip Cracker himself. Blink will take that kill, as they do get a trade at the very least. And Legion walks off the damage that ET pumps in. But dire Observer wards all around this top lane, knowing that AA and Clock are roaming around, needing to give this vision to keep Razor up and running. Very intelligent warding from the Dire.
Just good connect fields to make sure that the Stomp will connect. Also the drain on the Legion Commander to make sure that even if a duel does come out, there's actually no easy way for Legion Commander to actually finish it onto somebody. So all around they're dealing with this aggression the best way they can, and they're buying more time for the other heroes. I mean, Batroid up to level 7 now. Can start farming your jungle very efficiently. He also has the Blink Dagger queued up instead of the drums or anything else. So that's that early aggressive item that you were talking about.
Still, yeah, Lifestealer farming away very nicely. So what are we looking at? Tinker back into the jungle, Soul Ring and Rearm here and ready to go. Farming away in the jungle, giving dogfights the mid lane to get into that level 6.
That's the other thing. Tinker, again, not being slowed down at all, is going to hit that probably like 10-minute Boots of Travel. Would be hitting it a little bit quicker if there was some stacks on this side of the jungle. So the only one still sitting on the other side of that small little side jungle that he's not gone on just yet. But speaking of going on, smoke rotation in the bottom lane, the Shadow Fiend joining in up against a Lifestealer who does not have the Infest available, holding on to Rage as long as he can. Two Rays already coming in. Well, there it is. The Lasso also available for the Batroid, means that he will not be able to survive because of it.
And no action anywhere else on the map. Dogfight sits mid, Tinker still trying to farm the jungle. Picks up an Arcane Rune for himself, and he doesn't have one stack like you were saying. Up in the northwest. They couldn't really go in on the Razor with Disruptor sitting so nearby, and Legion plus AA, not really the best two heroes to go in and kill anyone, but they'll get some stacks going here for the Tinker. Try and build up bank as he does close in on the Boots of Travel. Now 500 gold or so off that mark. Still good moves from the Dire team. Getting across this map. Sure enough, spreading thin across the lanes, but Batrider is having a great time. After that first death bottom, which could have tilted the best off-laning player in the world, honestly, that almost first blood into dying to a tower is just an awful circumstance to happen to you. Now has Soul Ring into Blink in about 600 gold or so after these camps, and that's going to be a very good timing for him, while AA Clock, under Dire Vision, I believe, did smoke up and move towards the Razor, but he's sitting very close, hugging the tier 1, and now you see the smoke coming in from the rest of his team. Dire knows this is happening, and they'll be spotted out. Low ground to high ground, Clockwork moves forward, in fact, into the Razors of the SF. One more should do it, but Fader doesn't get it. Razor will clean up and finish the job as the Glimpse does catch the Ancient Apparition. 2-0. Reactions here from the Dire team. Thanks to that vision all around the top lane, completely shut down the Clock and AA.
You know, at the best of times, even if they went on the Razor there, they would have had enough time to then come in. Instead, they just find the Clockwork up on the high ground. So, very well played indeed. And then, of course, with the Disruptor, you always get that +1. 3 points up on a Glimpse. It's really, really strong range already. And, well, it does make it that you have to either win or you just lose that extra hero. Right? It's so obnoxious to play against. Or at least they don't also have to deal with the Kunkka, because that's even worse.
Oh yeah. one after one after one.
I've seen these kind of games, and it's not pretty.
They are super messy. So Clockwork has hit level 6. Ancient Apparition is about a level away from it. I'm assuming they've already bought and used their tome to get that Clockwork up to that level. But we start to now look for the Infest bombs. Clockwork and Lifestealer can start pairing up. Armlet is ready. You have to worry about now the blink from Batrider, which is 200 gold away. Drums on the Razor means that he can be active, and they've got Static Storm, which can absolutely ruin a Lifestealer's day if they get that jump on him. So they move forward with a smoke to go. Batrider on about 2/3 HP. No Firefly available, maybe baiting this one out as his blink is coming out on the Courier. Radiant none the wiser. 2 heroes mid sitting defending the Tinker. Ancient Apparition needs that level 6. He's trying to leech experience there, while Legion is about 300 off her blink. Could do with a bit more time.
Next couple of minutes are going to be very important for the pace of the game, because we've seen Sun Gaming just counterplaying a little bit of what iG.V is trying to do, but now all these items, all these timings are starting to hit. We talked about the Blink Dagger on the Legion, but also the Boots of Travel on the Tinker. He's not too far off his own blink now, just because of that. So, and Sun Gaming, for all their efforts, they haven't really been able to slow him down, or Lifesteal even, despite that death. He's still setting it at the top of the net worth chart. So he does provide that damage, right? You already have the Armlet, which is a huge amount of damage output, even without something like a Desolator.
And they couldn't find the Lifestealer. He was just farming jungle while they were hunting. Now Firefly is back up again, fortunately. Batrider has it available. But in comes the Ice Blast. They're scouting out. They look for the bat. They saw him for a second, and the hookshot lands with a perfect jump. They do get the lasso back in with the Static Storm, but the Rage is already used, and Lifestealer tanking through all the damage of Clockwork. Can he escape? Through the March he walks. The Thunder Strike will be enough with the Razor's right clicks to take down Dogfights, as Legion in very deep has the duel available, but the Razors with the Plasma Field, so much magic damage coming through, they kill off the AA. That's a nice Earth Splitter, but Lifestealer turns and burns, kills off the SF. Razor very low, and this Legion taking down yet another with that overwhelming odds. ET runs away, but their HP incredibly low. Lifestealer takes a tumble, and a 2 for 3 will be what ends up with this team fight collapsing.
Everyone dropped so low there. Some crucial plays from both sides, especially the Disruptor with the Static Storm, but also Glimpse on the Tinker. Brought him back to base at the bottom a couple of extra seconds. Otherwise, Tinker would have been able to get in like at least one more round of spells. Might have just turned the tide here, but as it stands, just had to rearm back at base. And again, just a couple of seconds, but these kind of timings can make a huge difference here for Shadow Fiend to go in, throw down these Razors, but also the Razor himself. Just draining some more damage and whatnot.
It is where this Tinker starts to shine, though. Farming across the map. No real way to stop him from finishing off his Blink, and then into Kaya. Aghanims is going to be huge this game, which is why you see Shadow Fiend now rushing from Drums into BKB. No Dragon Lance, no Hurricane Pike is coming, no Mask of Madness. No Yule Scepter or Blink either. You know, this is a very step-by-step defensive build, tanking up as much as he can. Even the Blink Dagger skipped out by the Shadow Fiend as Faded will find an Arcane Rune, closing in on level 2 Requiem. But it is the top lane that we have to look out for. Ice Blast trying to scout for the Batrider, but he TPs away, hiding away in those trees.
Did see him a little bit earlier with the rocket, but then Dogfights out of range and then not willing to commit with the hook shot into nothing, essentially, because it blinked further into the trees. So not going to get that kill, but they will get the tower with Lifestealer jumping away at the same time. Tinker down bottom. Left his own devices, better TP out, yeah. Thinking about pulling the trigger there, but it should end up being a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, Batrider so desperately wants to go in, but Blink on Tinker means it is hard. Now he's trying to spam Sticky to see if Tinker TP's back in, but he shows mid with the March, and they'll know there is no real chance of catching him down at bottom. So the tier 1 top falls. Bottom 1 not going to be defended here by the Radiant, it appears. Just a long Ice Blast thrown through as the smoke from the Dire swinging all the way through this Radiant jungle. Triple wards, watching out for farming here. No one is lurking around though, and it looks like Sun want to try and meet iG.V. Catch any stragglers as the tier 2 is being pressured, but this is a An interesting initiation is Batrider Firefly, Blink Lasso. Legion's the one that's caught. A lot of expenditure thrown her way, an easy kill though. And she's cleared up.
I feel like they need a little bit more. I mean, Sun Gaming, they really feel the pressure, right? Because they spent a lot of time down bottom, just pressuring this tier 1 tower. They finally get it, but they also really wanted the Tinker. They're hoping that he would come back and then expose themselves to the Batrider. That didn't happen, so... And meanwhile, iG Vitality were farming 2 different lanes. And then they make the smoke rotation across the entire map with 5 heroes, really, and only get this 1 kill. It feels like that's too little here compared to what iG Vitality can bring to the table. This is something else, yeah. They can't connect with a Stomp with the ultimate Razor's there, and this is their Tinker.
Yeah,
and this is the kind of, these are the kind of kills that they really need to slow down the game for iG.V, buy themselves more time, and just, more importantly, build the momentum on the Razor as well as the Shadow Fiend.
He was not expecting that. Maybe a misplay, but Tinker.
There it is. Blink Dagger now on Legion Commander. They make that smoke rotation towards mid themselves. Clockwork showing himself. Ah, that's an Invis Elder Titan, so he was not scouted out by this Observer Ward.
Where's Legion going? The Rocket Flare sees the Shadow Fiend. The Shrine, it is there, but with the Shrine now down, it feels like time to go. Legion will press the attack. Jump forward, and this should be a relatively quick kill, but until the glimpse arrives, Rage from the Lifestealer means that he's pretty tanky through all of this. The magic damage will now start to come out, though, with a double raise. Thunderstrike there, Legion trying to sprint away. Ice Blast like flew across into the base, and I don't know where this Lifestealer's going. He goes for the Rage TP, but Lasso will catch and kill as Sun Gaming react very quickly as top lane. They get the ET, but it's not enough damage. TP's out under the very nose of Tinker. Dogfight's already expending that hook shot. Sun Gaming get away with absolute murder there. Don't lose a hero, they get the kill on Lifestealer, and now they can control the map as they wish.
A couple of heroes going back to the fountain. Elder Titan with the TP scroll still alive, but Lifestealer a bit of a different fashion. So going in a little bit too deep. They just didn't quite have the damage output. Maybe not expecting the Shadow Fiend to be this tanky, but just what you have, especially if you don't go for this minus armor build on top of the armor. iG.V, they still have the Tinker, right? They still have the trump card, so as long as he's alright, as long as he's doing well and keeping the lanes pushed out and farming, then they're still in this game by all means. But
I mean, the trouble is he was top net worth for a long time, and now he's slipped a little bit, did die at a very important time. That key moment where Tinker's, you know, like the first 5 or 6 minutes, you know, you can die 0-5 and you feel bad, but it's okay because you can catch up later on. But in this period of the game, Tinker is meant to be not dying and permanently farming like 2 or 3 lanes, just jumping around the map and drawing attention. You know, it's not just about his own gains, it's about forcing your opponents to lose as well with their rotations. But Tinker being dead for quite some time, finally gets his Kaya, which is another kind of stopgap item. Tinker's item builds recently have become a little awkward with the addition, or with the change to Ether Lens and the addition of Kaya to the game, because it feels like you can go so many different angles now with like Ether Lens into Hex Rush, you can go Dagon build, Aghanim's build, Shiver's Guard build, there's a number of different routes to take. It looks like he's going to be going straight Kaya Dagon, magic damage burst.
Like, you want all of these items, but the question is, what item is ideal now in this situation that the game is in right now, and it's also a question of slot efficiency, right? Tinker is really suffering from that more so than most other heroes because he can farm so quickly. He can make use of so many items, but he only has so many slots to work with, even with the backpack being added on.
He's always had that issue, though.
Yeah.
It's a difficult time.
Should connect in, there should be free kill. Throwing out some spells, but not really going to change the outcome of this. Can iG.V react to this is the question.
Where's Lifestealer? Is he infested? I was looking around at all the heroes to see if he's infested in one of his mates, and he's in a dragon. He's farming Ancients. The Ancients refuse to aggro onto him because there's a Clockwork nearby. But Sun Gaming, so far, looking very, very good. ET incredibly farmed here for Staff, along with his Tranquil Soul Ring. But Shadow Fiend, after a rough-ish early laning stage, has definitely caught up nicely, and with that BKB now complete, he can start thinking about the Dragonlance, the Force Staff into Pike to deal with the Clockwork, but also to be able to kite around this Lifestealer. who has not really implanted a thought of fear into his opponents just yet. He hasn't really pressed the issue. He does need to start looking for these big blink initiations with Legion.
Yeah.
Blade Mail's coming, so what better time than now?
Well, so far, I mean, Sun Gaming, they're hitting the timings with the BKB just to protect against the Tinker and 4-star. Like that's splitting the difference a little bit. Razor going for the 4-star first, then into the BKB, which he almost has enough money for as well. So Blink is also getting to the point where they can all say collectively, hey, we can fight into them right now, not really have to worry too much. And I think that's the pressure that iG.V is feeling. This combination, this Legion Commander Lifesteal, hasn't really netted them any kills whatsoever, let alone dual victories. Still sitting at a straight 0.
I think this ET Spirit has given some info over to the Sun Gaming. They're all grouping up and they know this smoke is coming, whether they saw it with an Obs Ward or the ET Spirit caught onto a hero. They definitely know something's happening, even planting defensive sentries in case there's an Invis hero anywhere nearby. It does buy time for Tinker to start split pushing and farming more aggressively though with his group up, but I think Sun could think about just pressing into tier 2s or considering Roshan soon with the heroes and builds they've got so far. You know, Blink 4-staff is here for Batrider. He could very easily catch and kill pretty much anyone as long as Legion's not nearby.
Alright, so now like we've been talking about momentum, just wasting a lot of time, but it goes both ways. I mean, again, an infest into Legion Commander, not a lot of time spent farming, more time just spent looking for kills. And if Sun Gaming can keep dodging this out, then the Tinker ends up being the only one who's getting ahead. Now there it is. That's the one that they were looking for. Shadow Fiend, absent of support from the rest of his team. He does end up dropping first dual victory.
He was a long way away from everyone else.
Yeah.
They're all top lane looking for potentially a Tinker. They're only going to find a Clockwork though. Dogfights out in the open, drawing attention up towards top lane while the rest of his team bottom hunting for Batrider as Dogfights glimpsed back into the hole. The Earth Splitter won't connect, but Hookshot unable to get him any distance from the opponents as Batrider has been found. Do they have a stun? They don't, unfortunately. Legion without the duel off cooldown. Not able to stop the TP, and ET will be here to attempt the defense of the tier 1, but a quick raid from Lifestealer does get him away from danger of that stun.
Might be able to get a deny actually though with iG.V kind of slowing it down a little bit, with Tinker aggressively TPing in to secure that for the Lifestealer. And top lane, Sun Gaming haven't actually been able to make a trade out of it. They're all committed down bottom for the defense. So again, I mean, if you look at the gold graph, that's basically telling the story of this game. There has been like 1.5k in favor of iG.V at one point. Now we're sitting at the same kind of number for Sun Gaming. So no team's really been able to grab that foothold, build that momentum, and really take control of the map really for the longest, for more than a couple of minutes at a time.
Everyone's farming. Like 35,000 net worth at 24 minutes for each team. You know, you've got Tinker and Razor even. You've got SF and Lifestealer very close to each other. Legion is slightly ahead of the Batrider, but it's all very even, you know, roll to roll.
Speaking of Batrider down bottom, found Tinker into the Stomp here. Do they have enough damage? Just the next question, and all the answers yes. There's no help coming in here for the Radiant side. No close TP location. And now it's 50 seconds where you don't really have to worry as much about stacks being farmed or lanes being pushed in. So now it's an opportunity here for Sun Gaming to claim a tier 2 objective.
Yeah, more importantly, you don't have to worry about March spam onto towers, so you can pressure tier 2 at long last. Get a couple more objectives under your belt and farm this enemy side of the jungle as Dogfights tries to send them back, get some vision of the Batrider with the rocket flares. The rest of the team, they're coming in. Tinker 20 seconds until he's alive. He's got Dagon level 1. I don't think considering buyback is worth it, so they're going to go and try the instant jump. Static Storm is down and Legion's caught. Blade Mail goes, but Lifestealer forced to jump out with a rage to go. He is being drained of his damage though. Razor runs forward and that's going to be the end of the Lifestealer. iG.V crumbling. A really bizarre move to play so aggressively there without your Tinker. They were looking for a quick grab, but it was the Disruptor who was faster on the fingers.
Yeah, it's very questionable play just going in where you know, alright, that's got to be the entire 5-man lineup down there, and they had all the time in the world to set up to guard exactly against these kind of rotations. I mean, Disruptor in a perfect spot.
You know what the funniest thing is? That was the first time SF used his BKB, and he's had it for a good, like, 8-9 minutes. Razor hasn't used his BKB yet. This is still Sun Gaming kind of winning map control, winning fights, winning pickoffs, without using BKBs, and without really losing too much map momentum. They've still got tier 1 mid, albeit on 22 HP, but it is still there, still standing,
still
with a glyph,
location, right?
with a glyph there. And they've still got tier 2s across the map as well, so Radiant really do have to start thinking about picking up the tempo here.
But they also have to recognize the kind of fights that they go into, because right now, they can't go 5-on-5 up against the Razor and the Shadow Fiend, because with or without having used the BKBs, his potential is still there. So the Tinker, in terms of damage output in these kind of fights, he's very useless against these cores right now. So what they need to do is try and make these kind of plays with Legion Commander when the other team is split up a little bit more, right? Go for these quick and easy pickoffs, even just on supports, just to try and slow them down, build up some dual damage, and just try and buy time for not just your Tinker, but also Lifesteal at this point, because...
Tinker, it's time to put your team on your back and start zapping people with Dagon. Difficult though. ET pretty farmed. Halberd is coming. Should be able to do a great job against the Legion's duel. Even against the Lifestealer before he can get his rage off. But this Razor SF combo. Two heroes, very, very tanky, difficult to bring down. Don't think the Radiant have what it takes just yet. As the hook shot lands in, but a force staff out from the ET gets him back to safety. Duel in onto someone in the back. It's the Disruptor, but it's the front lines where SF, Bat, and ET being forced back by the Dragon. Faded will pop the drums to try and run away from this. Tinker rocket spam coming through, but in comes the Razor back end backstab. And the Spirit Stomp to land onto Tinker, perfectly timed. Cancels TP, but more importantly, kills him off. Now, they can kill the Dragon. Yo! Is Lifestealer dead?
Hashtag stop Dragon Abuse, does have the rage, but there's also still the last on top of the Earth, so that all of this right-click power still retained. But Razor, they will easily dispatch of a tier 1 tower.
So they lose the Disruptor, but they kill 3 in exchange.
This was a very scrappy fight, right? Very strung out, both teams just trying to scramble towards that location, so Disruptor does get caught out. Alright, extra dual damage for the Legion. If this is where it ends, in this 1-for-1 trade with Disruptor and AA dying, then it's still perfectly fine for iG.V. As it stands, they keep committing in, they think that they have that momentum in these fights, but then the BKBs start to come out. They catch a Tinker with the Storm just at the right time to cancel the TP, and then everything started to go downhill from there. And now, look at this, Sun Gaming. They're looking for the next big objective. Roshan, they have a medallion on somebody, they also have the minus armor from the Shadow Fiend.
What's the Legion thinking about? DD?
It's actually quite a bit of damage being done. The Elder Titan almost dying. The rocket flies and the hook shot to ensure. Alright. They're making a play. He's chasing him outside the pit. Roshan on 3rd health points. Can they go in back here to claim it themselves?
It looks like they're going to give it a try. Shadow Fiend's TPing. Oh, cancels his TP. Doesn't want to go bottom, but it does not look like they're contesting. They scan and they'll realize that Roshan has been taken by the Radiant. Lifestealer gets the Aegis. And a pretty big, important objective there to get, because they've been losing these team fights. I mean, very, very tight ones. But if they have that second life for the Lifestealer, this guy could pop back up and do a lot of damage.
Yep.
And we're still waiting to see some kind of combo here with the AA Clockwork. They've got the Infested Legion. Looking for someone to jump on. But this Lincoln Sphere is going to arrive for Razor shortly.
Feels very tanky. I'm not sure if, even with the Blade Mail, it's going to be enough. Especially not with the Disruptor there as well, able to maybe turn things around a little bit. So they still have to pick and choose their fights very carefully, despite having that Aegis and winning that Gambit, essentially, around the Roche pit. But yeah, with the game going like this, they can also actually make use of this vision. Like, they've had these 2 wards in the jungle for the longest time. They're about to expire. Ancient Apparition has another one to refresh that kind of vision, but I mean, these kind of wards, they don't really matter as much if the fights are happening on your side of the map.
Tinker Dagon 3. Oh, ET shows. He's got 4 staff, but doesn't go high ground. Movement speed from the Spirit. Yeah, that'll be enough. Waddles away. Tinker is kind of spooky, though. Potentially, pre-BKBs could zap people very low and allow the Lifestealer to finish them off with the Blade Mail of Legion Commander, of course, a great force in these fights. It feels like whoever gets the jump on the biggest target first, like if, for instance, hypothetically, if Clockwork gets a good cogs in onto the Razor or the Shadow Fiend and they're able to lock him down, you know, with a duel or something like that, then they're able to get the damage in, kill off that initial target and get the numbers advantage. The Radiant are in a good spot, but equally, if the Blink Lasso or the Glimpse Static Storm are good like this, they catch the AA and they could turn it into more. They hunt for another hero. In comes the BKB, the Legion will arrive with the Blade Mail there, but a Static Storm in. Lasso onto the Lifestealer, pop the Aegis immediately, and this is going to be huge for the Dire team. They get the jump in with the Raccoon wound up and thrown out. They'll catch the Lifestealer with all of the damage in the world. Blown the hell up, and the Dire team initiation into annihilation. Radiant fall flat, and there really is nothing they can do without their Tinker available.
Sniping out the Lifestealer with the second life, but it didn't matter at all. He just melted both times very easily. Also, nice little target fire, like just holding on, waiting, hey, where's the Legion Commander duel? When is that going to come out? And then utilizing that, the Flaming Lasso, the Static Storm, everything on that just to try and protect the Shadow Fiend that was dueled up. And as a result, even get the kill, get that extra damage in towards Faded. And all that adds up to be an absolute disaster. It's a bit of a zap down here. Batrider down to 300 health points. Ice Blast off the mark there.
Does hit the Disruptor, but ET unable to stop the TP. But yeah, the BKB on Legion, very important to come out as quickly as possible. But you're going to start seeing, you know, Lincolns on the Razor now, Lincolns on the Shadow Fiend is coming in a couple of 100 gold. Yeah. They can start transferring it onto each other to try and get that additional little efficiency from the item. And you're also looking at a pretty farmed Batrider now. Eul Scepter's complete, has a gem, and Aghanim Scepter queued up. Thinking about that double lasso potential.
Yeah. These Lincoln Spheres especially, it's going to make it much, much harder for them to actually find these initiations because Legion Commander herself doesn't actually have anything to trigger it. So you have to work together with either perhaps the Ancient Apparition if he's around, Lifestealer can sort of open wounds. Mostly Tinker, I guess, is the easiest with Laser perhaps from range or Dagon. But it just adds one extra layer of time that you have to react if you're Sun Gaming, if nothing else. And, well, sometimes you just don't quite have the timing right, or you just forget about it, or you think it's already proc, but it wasn't, so then you waste a duel on the Lincoln Sphere, and at this point, it's absolutely devastating, because you need to rely on that lockdown to just get one of these big cores out of the fight as quickly as you can, essentially.
And it's super important, honestly, to get the jump. Vision is going to play a huge part in this. You look at the darkness on the map now for both teams. No one really sees anything outside of their heroes and the creep waves they've got out on the map. So smoke plays into deep observer wards, going to be incredibly important here for both sides, seeing how important the Batrider and Clockwork or Disruptor and Legion jumping in have been in these skirmishes and team fights as people start grouping up and pushing into these choke points. Next Roshan, 3 minutes until the big man can potentially respawn, but for the past 10-15 minutes it really has felt like Sun Gaming complete control over the map. Nothing really the Radiant can do apart from sit back and wait for the Dire heroes to move forward. But if they move forward too far, we are still looking at pretty damn good high ground defense. Tinker, one of the best with March and Rocket Spam, unfortunately doesn't have that Aghanim Scepter. Dagon 5 into Lincoln Sphere. I can't say I'm a fan of this Tinker build this game. Very glass cannon, very all-in, very I'm gonna 1v9.
It's kind of been forced into it though, right? So
no, he's forced himself into it. Like going for Dagon build before, like no Aether Lens, no Ags, no Hex. He's definitely taken it upon himself to build this way. Unless his captain has said go Dagon build, but you never know what's inside the team comms.
No, smoke rotation that you were talking about. Batrider is Firefly unscouted. They might find Lifesteal just as he's TPing. Oh no. That's a feels Batman right there. He knew it. His spidey senses were tingling. It was like, hey guys, it's all missing, but I better TP out. But it was just a tad bit too late. Now another tier 2. Probably going down. They have the catapult wave coming in next. Might even help them going high ground if the ones who perhaps even commit the BKBs just running up once they realize that there's no buyback here and his life still available.
He is dead for a long time, isn't he? Shadow Fiend still unable to do too much. This Tinker, level 4 rockets, level 4 March, very hard to breach high ground. They need Aegis, or they need to pick off on the Tinker, more importantly, to get up towards the tier 3s. That should be the job of the Bat Rider, but they also have now Yule Scepter on the ET to cancel teleports, Yule Scepter on Bat Rider, and I think that's about it. Of course, Glimpse on Disruptor can do that job, but Tinker building towards Lincoln's, still unsure about this. It definitely feels like he needs to get a Hex or an Aghanim Scepter or something to do damage or to lock people down, or to even just cancel Lincoln Spheres.
There's the lifesteal ad right now. He just finished up the AC. It's Desolator queued up with that for the longest time, but it's a little bit too late to get a lot of value out of that. So instead, he's also looking at Lincoln Sphere, but his item progression has been very, very slow.
Yeah, you look at him now, 6k behind the Razor when he was, what about 800, 900 behind the Razor not too long ago.
Yeah.
These dire core heroes neck and neck with each other. Very good farm distribution between the two of them. It's always nice to see numbers like that.
Yep.
While the Bat and Legion toe and toe also. But Legion going to be moving into the Halberd to start popping these Lincolns herself. Needs that item as quickly as possible, but you can definitely feel the strain of the Radiant just, you know, scrambling to push out all these other lanes, but now they look to catch the Tinker. In comes the ET. They'll jump forward with a Legion duel, and down goes the Elder Titan. The rest of the Dire team unavailable to help. He was very ballsy in his push forward to catch, but the Clockwork misses out on the hook shot, and that will be the end of that.
Normally these kind of kills are still very important, even though it's just quote-unquote an Elder Titan. Generally, you would say, yeah, it's blowing up the map, but instead, Sun Gaming, they just keep going. They just don't even care that the Elder Titan is down. Instead,
I mean,
they just go for a blink initiation themselves.
Legion's just, I don't know, 1v4ing now. I don't know, very, very far forward. The rest of the team was backing up. Such an easy move forward to catch out the Legion commander, and Legion has to be the hero that sat behind. Unless they have perfect vision and perfect knowledge of the Dire team, Legion can't be the one to be on the front lines, and definitely can't be the one to jump initiate first, because she needs to either cancel out Batrider Lasso and press the attack onto one of these core heroes, or she needs to be the one that's jumping the Batrider.
Yeah.
If these checkboxes aren't ticked off, then Legion's in an awful position.
Have we seen one press the attack cancel the Lasso today? I don't think so. Yeah. It's a little bit odd, and yeah, as a result, nothing's really changed, because you look at the Radiant side, they're all huddled up in their base, they have no vision on the outside, they're so freaking scared right now. They're scouting at Roche Pit as that's happening, but yeah, by comparison, on the Dire side, they can do whatever they want. If they're not doing Roshan, then they're farming the entire map and getting further and further ahead. As it stands, IG Vitality, they're feeling forced to contest this once again. It did work out last time. And Sun Gaming, they are still respecting this threat, this Tinker on the outside of the pit.
Tinker with Lincolns now, and he's going into the Hex, which I do like to see. So, we're still going to find out how much this Tinker can do, of course. He's got a lot of room to grow. Would be lovely if he could find himself a position in these team fights to really show how strong the hero can be. With this vision now on the Shadow Fiend, Dogfight's looking for the initiation. They've got the BKB and Hurricane Pike, but the damage! Oh! Tinker Dagon 5 comes in and zaps the SF down immediately, but the follow-through Razor coming in with a Plasma Field, looking for the Ancient Apparition. Should be able to bring the AA down. The Ice Blast will land, but that's a 1-for-1. Now the drag back. Legion brought into the mouth of hell as Batrider's Firefly is going. The damage needed to cancel the blink, but it's not there. The Bat doesn't hit in, and now the Static Storm in onto Lifestealer, but the pushback. The Radiant are coming out on top of this fight. If only they can chase further. Legion needs to blink forward, but has no disables. Lifestealer doesn't have anything either, and the glimpse back will send the Legion packing. It will be the end of that. 1-for-1 support for a core. Better from iG.V as they press forward and get the initiations they need with the vision. The vision! They got the high ground ward up, which has now been dewarded. They catch the Shadow Fiend on the enemy side of the map, and now they move into Roshan, but the contest is coming.
It's a really odd fight, but yeah, there it is. 4 stuff in here on the Elder Titan. Immediately gets stooled up and zapped down. Roshan, very low. Razor trying to come in to double lasso, but it's not going to be enough, is it? Radiant still getting Aegis, and she's here. He just immediately procced And Leicester actually falling in the middle of that, not getting any piece of that particular pie. But they claim Aegis, and they throw the freaking team wipe because they just ran into the freaking Roche pit with no plan whatsoever, it felt like. I mean, Sun Gaming, they played this entire game so well.
It was desperate. It was so desperate.
I don't even think they needed to do that. Right? I mean, they kind of fumbled in the top lane a little bit because they had the last on one, but Razor was doing like 1v1s up against dogfights, not really providing that extra bit of damage that they needed with the Shadow Fiend on the sideline. And then they're just throwing bodies into the Roche pit to prevent the Aegis and Cheese from going in the hands of IG Vitality.
But there's the Tinker build. If Tinker is this glass cannon builder, he's left alone. There was no bat jump, there was no Razor pressure, there was no ET on top of him. Because ET walked into the pit, immediately blown up. Dagon 5 laser rockets, he was gone. Just absolutely gone. And Tinker sat there, rearmed, cast all his spells again. Rearmed like 4 times, got 4 marches, got 4 Dagon rockets, and then TP'd out, and he's like, cool, my job's done. I'm out of here, see ya. And Shadow Fiend was respawning, like, team, I'm alive and now you're all dead. You're meant to be kind of buying space for me, but instead, you've gone in without me. And now tier 3 gone, the double catapult's going, Legion pressures the melee racks, and in comes Lifestealer. Timing has been hit by iG.V. March being spammed out, the Static Storm will land onto that Lifestealer as the Requiem wound up and down he goes. No, maybe not, the armor toggles. Lifestealer's running, the stick charge there, but Static Link will drain his damage back. Turns to fight, but will get brought down in the end. A good effort as Dogfights arrives to save the Legion. Will buy enough time until the glimpse arrives and they get the trade. Follow through from Bat in onto Dogfight. Tinker arrives, looking for this Dagon zap down onto Bat Rider. He gets a lot of damage in, but Shadow Fiend coming through. They've got the catch on Tinker. Now Cicada's in trouble, but he gets the kill. Shadow Fiend says goodbye to the world. And iG.V, my goodness, the full lane of racks and a couple of kills to go with it. This game has gone from being super balanced, super crisp from both teams, to being an absolute bloodbath.
That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, just in the span of a couple of minutes, like a huge momentum swing towards iG.V, and then they lose all 3 of their core heroes just immediately after with the immense amount of chasing potentially in the side of Sun Gaming. It was so important for them to re-establish some semblance of control, but if you look at the objectives, if you look at the top lane, they still lost a full set of racks. So overall, iG.V, they're coming out with a better end of this trade. Certainly if you're also looking at the gold graph, that's it's just so freaking crazy to see that now.
Yeah, from 10k down to 3. Dire does still have the lead, but full lane gone top is an absolute disaster.
Still a huge experience lead, because if we look at the internet version, once again, we had the Shadow Demon in the other series. In this case, it is the AA seeing level 15 when everyone else is at least level 21. Oh
yeah, Disruptor level 21. No XP talent, interestingly enough, but Disruptor's found a lot of levels there with all the... I mean, it's 16 to 30. They've been fighting and killing a lot more. Still, not doom and gloom here for the Dire by any means. I think the one thing they have to take away from these fights is catch Tinker.
Yeah.
That really is the key. Catch Tinker, because this glass cannon build, sure, he's got Lincolns, but a Blink Yules into Lasso Force Staff from the Batrider could very easily ruin his day. But now you are worrying about how things are going to go down in the near future as lanes are pushed in towards the Radiant side of the base. DD Rune spawns bottom for the Shadow Fiend potentially, full butterfly complete, and a smoke purchased. And once again, the Dire team plant themselves on this Radiant side of the map and pressure the iG.V guys to just sit inside their base and wait by the tier 3.
Yeah. And despite everything, they've been able to hold on to the gem on the Batrider on the side of Sun Gaming. So iG.V, despite this push across the map, they haven't really been able to establish any extra vision, which is why they're still playing very defensively here. They're still respecting that this game can go either way. It can tilt on the basis of one single team fight. And yeah, they're starting to realize that now. They're having the Legion Commander like in the middle of the pack rather than in the front for the longest time.
This is the next big part though. Tinker has Hex. Yeah. Chain hexing up a Shadow Fiend or a Razor could be absolutely huge here. if he's able to get it done. But yeah, dire vision mid lane. Pretty much one observer ward there, one watching around the Roshan pit for when he spawns up again. Radiant vision trying to place as they go. One observer ward near their own ancients on the eastern side. Not really anything else across the map. We'll see this mirroring around middle lane. Both teams trying to angle for an opportunity, but Lifestealer infests into the catapult away from the Razor as the rest of his team backs up.
Yeah. Could have been extremely dangerous here for either team, but especially Sun Gaming, because if you string yourself along like that and just wrapping around, maybe a slower heroes a little bit too far behind, and all of a sudden they're the ones being picked off. But iG.V
need to zoom out
quite
more.
Finding the angle.
They're coming in from all angles.
Yeah.
Oh, they ping out the ET. Did they de-ward? The gem on Bat still there, so they get the observer ward down. And that is all of the vision. Oh no, another observer ward gets placed, but likely to be found by the Bat in a short while. Being pinged out by Clockwork.
Yeah.
He's waiting for a jump onto someone. He wants someone to come and de-ward it, and Disruptor might be that hero. Moves forward, Blink Duel in with a Blade Mail, and oh, goodbye. Did get a quick Glimmer Cape out, but never going to be enough there, as Legion will be able to potentially de-ward this obs if they bring a sentry. Ancient Apparition has the gem, you're absolutely right. Down it goes.
Oh. Cute little play here, and once again, it all serves to slow down the game. Just blow up, just get yourself some space in your side of the map, farm up. Not just on a Tinker, who can, of course, bounce around the map. He's sitting at 28k net worth almost, way ahead of everybody else. But then look at the Lifestealer. Comparatively, he's still sitting very, very low, 6k or so behind both cores on the side of Sun Gaming. Of course, also caused by all of this time spent invested into most Legion Commander, but they're actually going to take a fight here. The hookshot cross, also break the link, also stepping up the battle in the meantime. Now the BKB coming through. Legion Commander looks for a target, and the lasso comes through before the duel. Probably for the best. He does eat the cheese. So still alive, Disruptor even fighting back into the fight, but that's a Tinker coming in. One zap, two zap. Eventually he should be able to bring down the Shadow Fiend. If they actually saw him pushed up to the high ground here, and
Lincoln's Shrine
cross still alive.
Tinker
actually
in trouble. He's very far forward. The rest of his team come up the ramp though and help him out. Jumping forward time and time again. SF surviving there though, very important. Even
sitting in this with a Glimmer Cape, wasn't he?
Yeah, Glimmer Caped up. There was no gem nearby. The Ancient Apparition got forced away from the fight. That's a weird one. The double lasso paying off huge though. Getting but because the Legion and the Lifestealer are very likely always together with the Infest, that Aghanims from Bat is so huge with the double lasso, catching them both, dragging them away, keeping the SF alive with the Glimmer Cape again, like you said, inside the cogs. All huge components there, keeping Sun Gaming in the run for this one. But we still have to see in these upcoming team fights, especially the one around this Roshan pit, because he's up in a minute and a half. Who comes out on top with that? Because that will open up the high ground push potentially for either team into these tier 3s and racks. And you're looking at a Razor with Aghanims and Refresher being queued up, which shouldn't be too far away. Very important for breaching high ground and bringing down these buildings on the Radiant side of the map. But that all starts off with who gets the jump. They try and catch the Clockwork, but the jump wasn't crisp, it wasn't executed well. They jump in and they realize, wait, hang on, no, we don't want to catch the clock. He turns back and hookshots forward. They get the Infest, the Lifestealer jumps in with a Legion, and everything looks pretty good for them. But scrappy fights all around. The Lincoln Spheres are proving to be really too much for the Radiant to deal with. You're seeing Tinker struggling to pop them with even all of his spells, but we'll see. As Tinker really is starting to get a little bit out of control now. Aghanim's even completed on top of everything else, as he sold his Kaya to make space for that. But
that's really still wanted. I mean, he has 10% spell amp, or almost 11 just from his intelligence. But another 10% on that, it does start to add up quite a bit. But again, we're talking about that earlier, the slot problem that you have. And the Tinker doesn't allow him to actually look at this. Out of the Roche pit into the duel here. And they immediately bring down a Razor buyback, but they trade for the Clockwork buyback as well. Faded in the middle of that, throwing down a little bit for a damage reduction. AAA, Ghost Scepter keeps similar for the 4-star forward. Faded, maybe a bit of a compromised possession. Same time, Duel has already been used, of course, so now it's been stomped down. Lifesteal in the middle, rages up, trying to man fight up against the Shadow Fiend. Can't really do that though, especially with the Razor coming in on the cover of BKB. Double kill, 2 of the big damage dealing cores on the side of iG.V down for the count. Now looking for the dieback on the Clockwork here, forcing himself up to the die side shrine. That was never gonna work.
That's Roshan secured for them, honestly. Razor there with a buyback and buys Boot to Travel 2. Says, forget Refresher. If I get bots 2 here and get into the fight, we win it convincingly, and that they do. Perfect there from Blink. Gets back into battle, and now Roshan looks like it's theirs. Ping's coming out from the Tinker saying, guys, we've got to get in there. We need to stop this from happening, but he's just unable to do it himself. 1v5. Ancient Apparition not really a hero here to do too much as he launches the Ice Blast, but nearly dies to the Earth Splitter coming out. Tinker now used up. He can't refresh, he can't rearm, he can't blink, and he can't run and hide. Found and killed by Sun Gaming as he's dead without buyback. In fact, what are we looking? No fantasy points. You go away. I don't want you. I want buyback status. Razor without it. Clockwork without it. Disruptor without it. Batrider and Legion, the only heroes here with buyback. Tinker a long way away with no gold to show. Cheese, Refresher Shard, and Aegis all picked up, and this might be time for Sun Gaming to shine.
That was such a bold play there for the Clockwork. Hookshotting out of the pit, just expecting them to maybe go in, sneak a peek here at the Roshan status. But ultimately, the buybacks, especially one from the Razor, he coming in with the Boot to Travel 2, as he said, straight back in the middle of the fight, fresh BKB. Even though it's 5 seconds, those 5 seconds were extremely important to just outlast IG Vitality. Now, we're just going from one rax to the next with that axe ultimate. Just ripping through these towers, ripping through these racks, and look at this Batrider looking for the next target. Double lesser even with the Refresher Shot if he finds it. But Tinker still on the sidelines for 30 seconds. Clockwork coming back. I might very well be looking for the Mega Creeps here. No reason not to attempt it here with all of this momentum, all of these extra items from the Roche. And even the Elder Titan just buying time, you know, just throwing his body into them. Meanwhile, back though. Dual victory here up against the Batrider, keeping straight back into the blast. So broken.
Their base is gone. Apparently the chain between them stays even if the first one is cancelled. What a bizarre.
I was so confused there, but yeah.
Mega creeps here now. Sun Gaming take down the entire Radiant base. It's desperation time from iG.V as they start sprinting down the middle lane. But you're still looking at these dire heroes with Aegis on Razor. You've still got Refresher Shard on Batrider. The cheese was expended, it looks like, some point throughout that fight. But now, iG.V, how do you try and get back into this game? You've got no buybacks to show for outside of your Legion Commander. Your Tinker shoving down this middle lane. But it really is disaster time.
You just go and hope for the best, I think. They'll smoked up, trying to obfuscate their exact positioning. Need to find a really crucial duel, but who do you even go on? I guess it would have to be the Shadow Fiend, but he still has buyback. Razor doesn't, but he's holding on to the Aegis. This feels like an impossible situation for them to actually win, but there it is. They're gonna go anyway. Hookshot in. BKB comes out on the Razor. Good start of Dogfight survives. At the very least, he creates some chaos, dragging him away, but still give up his life. There's the secondary lasso, but the duel can come through. That's a win for the Batrider, actually. Hexed up is the Razor, but well, faded. That is BKB expires, so he's dropping down. Aegis has to trigger it. Now, reset, re-engage. You've only lost the Clockwork as well as Legion Commander forced to buy back. AAA gets actually gets
Tinker coming in. This could be big if they can get the chain stun. No, they don't go forward. They need to commit to something drastic here, it feels like, but Lifestealer infests back into the Legion. Dire team swing back to a defensive position around their shrine. They've got no pressure on their buildings, while the Radiant have to come back and defend all of these lanes.
Need to get the Razor again, it feels like, or something, anything. But Batrider gets the force of across. Up to the high ground.
Into Earth Splitter. This is a dieback on Legion. It very well could be, but he BKBs. Hex now from Tinker, but a two-man lasso. They've caught them. Yule Scepter in onto the bat, but now it's the turn back. Sun Gaming swipe through 3. Buyback from the Lifestealer is available, but it feels like this game might just be over with Tinker dying. GG comes out from the Ancient Apparition, and Sun Gaming take game 1.
Oh, an absolute slugfest here. Throughout half of this game, the first part, we were talking about it. Bit of a farm fest both ways, very stable, and then just exploded. Sun Gaming, they come out the victors in the end. 55 minutes, 22-41, the final scoreline. Even with the power of the Tinker, it was not enough to push him over the edge.
A very close kind of back and forth game for the most part. Sun Gaming, though, that final Roshan take, the final fight. Tinker with a good amount of scaling, but the mid-game kind of fell short for them. They didn't get enough done with the lifesteal. Infest bombs in the Legion felt like Clockwork and AA got shut down a lot early by the Observer wards from the Dire as well, around that top third of the map, making sure that their combos weren't connecting where they would like to be. And this Razor seemed almost unkillable throughout the majority of the game with the build he went for. BKB Lincolns with the Assault Cuirass and Aghanims. He was shredding through buildings, and even with that Refresher Orb as well near the end to bring down the Mega Creeps for the Dire team. So Sun, one game to the good in this best of 3. We will take a short break with game 2 coming up in just a little bit.